This is an incoming transmission from the Jersey Shore.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group. Today you'll hear some of the most important financial information and wealth-building techniques available anywhere.
Let's get this party started, huh?
Do you have a question for Scott and the team?
Am I on the air?
609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646.
We'll get that information to them by radio.
Now, Financial Insanity with Scott McLean.
This is Financial Insanity, the show where we break down the crazy world of finance into simple, relatable terms. I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside, as always, Scott McLean, financial advisor with McLean Advisory Group, right here in Weirtown in Ocean County, New Jersey. And Scott's the man with the plan to keep your money safe from the traps and pitfalls of financial planning. And we're going to go through today Scott's book, the introduction and chapter 1. But it's good to see you, Scott.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate your idea of maybe sharing what's in the book because people don't like reading. So I figure if I can entice them to learn, I think that's the whole reason. So I am making finances a little bit less insane.
Yeah.
It's out of control.
We will do our best. And if you have any questions, if you would like to ask about getting a copy of that book, Three Blind Mice, the number 609-488-4646. That is 609-488-4646. And Scott, first off, very simply, why the name Three Blind Mice? We talking about a financial fairy tale here, Scott?
I wanted to pull it in because, people remember the story of the three blind mice, and it represents pretty much traditional financial advisors who, despite of good intentions, often lead clients into a financial trap. And by the way, our audience, you may be in that trap, which is why I wrote the book. It's due to outdated methods and lack of collaboration. Collaboration meaning working with the accountant and the lawyer. And then when you do the beneficiaries, the titling of assets, they're completely clueless. And I can tell you, this is a trap that's been set. And many people listening right now, Alex, they don't even know it.
Yeah. And so Three Blind Mice, not just a catchy title, also a metaphor for financial traps that we need to avoid. Scott, let's talk about the introduction. Can you give us a little taste of what the intro is all about there in your book?
Money really isn't everything. It's right up there with the essentials of life, with breathing. I remember people at church, Scott, money isn't everything. Well, it is right up there again with breathing. And when you pay attention to it, the decisions people make and the myths, the misconceptions, the downright bad advice, no matter what goes on, we need to pay attention. And again, the introduction really starts off about the financial literacy. People are not literate. There's no really classes out there from kindergarten up to high school. And so the idea is the traps that you've learned, people have learned today, and the kids are not even getting that now. You know what? The trap has been set, and therefore there could be evaporation of money. And I can tell you, this is a problem, Alex.
Yeah. And you talked about they're discussing some common mistakes, and there's some interesting phrases in the book that many of us might recognize. And so I want to see if people have heard this before, and then I want you to discuss why these phrases are indeed traps. So here's something you hear. Spend it. I'm only young once.
Boy.
Another one. It's only 0% interest. Or my favorite, I work hard and deserve it. How are these possible traps, Scott?
They're real. And they trying to justify their poor financial decisions. I deserve it. You know what? Go spend $500 a month on that new car. But when you look at the budget, can they afford it? And all of a sudden, 2-3 years goes down the line. They bought a car for $10,000, or let's say $15,000 is a live example. And after interest and payments, they end up paying $30,000. So they use the example, well, I deserve it. I work hard. I get it. And this really is a trap. They've been trained either by their parents, grandparents, or perhaps no parents, or didn't listen to their parents. And I've noticed this, and of course it carries on. And I'm an old bat right now. I guess I'm 65 now, and I can hear my dad's voice talking about money all the time, of being frugal, watch your money, and treat people exceptionally well so they listen to you. And this is the traps where I put throughout the book.
Yeah, and Scott, I want you to maybe illustrate one of these traps that we just mentioned, and after you do that, if you could, roll that into giving out that phone number for people if they have any questions about any of these traps we're discussing.
The traps you think about, number one is, where do I invest the money? I look about the areas of money. So you're taking money out, but did you pay attention to the taxes? How about the potential growth? You bought a nice stock, like we hear these AI stocks are taking off like a rabbit. And of course, you buy them, you sell them, and now we have a tax situation. Did the planner or the advisor look at the taxes along with the investments? You look at it, it's like planning a road trip, and you're just looking at it, but you're really not checking the fuel gauge. And this is where people get stranded, ending up in the wrong portfolio, the wrong advice, or perhaps maybe everybody wants growth. No one wants shrinkage. So where do you invest money? And again, that's the biggest problem. People are so attuned to looking at the right-hand side of their portfolio, the bottom right, which is, how much did I have? How much did I have last year? Well, how much growth did I have? They forget to look at, well, did I get dividends? Did I get more shares of stock? Am I taking too much money out? If you're asking yourself these questions, this is why people really should pay attention for a second advice or a review. Maybe your portfolio isn't up to snuff. Whether you're going through different times of the season, winter, snow, the heat, maybe it's elections, maybe it's the children got sick. They're not looking at the big picture. And this is the challenge, what I talk about when I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice, how your financial planning process leads your money to a financial trap. Well, this is the problem. And if you have questions, please feel free to give our studios a call at 609-488-4646. I'd love to empower our listeners to have the ability to give us a call off the air. No time, no expense, no, we're not going to bill you. Let's just have a 10, 15-minute discussion to see if you are in the right place. Or maybe you've outgrown your financial advisor. Maybe you grew your money into retirement, but now you've failed to make that most obvious shift from the growth area to the income area so you won't outlive your money. And that's important, Alex.
It absolutely is. And as we're discussing today, the introduction and chapter 1 of Scott's book, Three Blind Mice, on the show today, Financial Insanity. And Scott, I want you to discuss something you referenced, and that's the rat race. So you referenced that here early on. What are we talking about? What's the rat race you're referencing?
I think we're all in a rat race. I mean, when you're losing weight, the rat race is, I want to have that ice cream and cake, but I know I'm trying to lose weight. And so you get caught in that rat race. In the financial world, this endless cycle of working hard, trying to make ends meet, never feeling like you're getting ahead. And just like the nursery rhyme, many people are blindfolded to the outdated financial advice and running around in circles. And I think this is so important. As you said, the metaphor, Alex, is so important because it could turn into a tremendous, tremendous problem in their portfolio. So again, when you think about it, if you're out there, this might be me. You're thinking to yourself, 609-488-4646. I don't know if I gave that number out before. I want people to feel empowered that they can call, not feel like they're going to be sold, 609-488-4646, because you yourself could be in that cycle or the rat race, hearing the same old thing, because your advisor, probably good-looking gentleman or good-looking woman, and you've been with them for years, but you failed to ask the right questions, or they don't bring it up when you do your reviews. This is insane.
Absolutely. And Scott, something else insane too is just to turn your back on some things that really are important when it comes to your financial picture. And there could be what you reference as the great disconnect with folks and their finances. If you would, in the book here, you talk about an 11-year-old boy named Charlie. Can you tell us a little bit about that story and how maybe there was some disconnection with this person and their money?
You know, Charlie was a hardworking young man, 11 years old. And, of course, his parents made him do work, mow the lawns, do the odd job, save your money. He went to the county fair, had $100 in his pocket, and he was so excited to go there. By the way, you might think it might be me. It could have been me, by the way. And you go to the fair, and you go there, and your friends got their money, and you've got your hard-earned money, like those going into retirement, your hard-earned money. And after going on a fancy rides, found out there was $20 gone. Now, if we equate it to numbers, that's 20%. You know what? He wanted to go on more rides. He wanted to enjoy the ride, but he didn't have enough money. He put his hand in his pocket and found out, wow, I don't have enough money. And this story came up when I was thinking about my own life and lives of clients I meet. When the market takes a left hook, you put your hand in the wallet or you look at your statement and saying, will my money last? Will my life last longer than my money? The fear of death is no longer number one. It's the fear of running out of money. And that seems to be the process when I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice, because you're not looking at the whole thing. It's almost like putting your head in the ground like an ostrich at the zoo. But what are they doing? Well, their vitals are exposed to all the whims and traps of the financial world. This is important, Alex.
It absolutely is. As we're discussing today, Scott's book, Three Blind Mice, How Today's Financial Planning Process Leads Your Money to a Mousetrap. If you have any questions, if you want to ask about how to get a free copy of the book, the number 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Just a couple minutes left here, Scott. One of the key issues you highlight here early on in the book, the importance of understanding your overall financial picture. Explain why that is just so crucial.
When you invest money, it depends on your risk and how much you can risk. Everybody loves growth. Everybody's watching the AI stocks or the growth stocks, and they see it and they feel, they call it the fear of missing out. And they forget, what if the market turns back? What if I fear missing out? I put my money in like 1928. People put their money in, and then they're devastated by 1932, 33, when the market dropped. This is a common mistake of fear of missing out. And the trap has been set. Do you have too much stocks? Maybe too much bonds, or maybe not enough bonds. When interest rates are high, it's time to cash in, go into bonds. When interest rates start to come down, you can win. So again, depending on the climate of the market, and these are common traps that are there every single time because everybody wants to sell the hype and the excitement. Everybody wants to sell the newest fad. The question is, let's stay consistent. And when people call us, Alex, the most important thing is they need to understand, what's your biggest concern? Let's talk about that. And if you have that on your mind right there, right now, feel free to give our studios a call, 609-488-4646. Love to try to help you, not sell you, educate you.
We come back, we're going to be talking about how to retire rich. This is Financial Insanity.
What if you ordered a pizza, but when you opened the box, a couple pieces were missing? That would be upsetting, right? Now think about how much you believe you have saved for retirement. Do you still owe taxes on that money? If you do, that could take a big bite out of your nest egg. Financial advisor Scott McLean and his team at McLean Advisory Group understand the importance of tax planning and can help you reduce the impact that Uncle Sam has on your retirement. Give them a call today to start working on your retirement tax plan. 609-488-4646. Create a plan today so that you can get as many slices of your retirement pie as possible. Call Scott McLean at 609-488-4646 today and schedule your retirement tax analysis. That's 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities. Firm may not give tax advice.
And when you pay down debt, you don't pay down the highest interest rate. The biggest mistake is you pay the highest interest rate card when you should do the snowball effect of paying down debt.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, presented by McLean Advisory Group.
We are pulling back the curtain on something that could change the way you think about retirement forever. You could pay less in taxes while still making more money. Would you want to know how? Of course you would. This is Financial Insanity. I'm your host, Alex Dingman, alongside Scott McLean of McLean Advisory Group. He is the founder and he is my friend. And we are joined today to talk about how to retire rich. And, that sounds great, Scott, paying less in taxes, making more money. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that?
I totally agree. I'm excited about this segment because people don't seem to get it, or maybe they're starting to get it, but they haven't implemented a game plan.
Yeah. And then, so what's the issue here? Why does this sound far-fetched, but in reality, it's just making some adjustments to get there? Talk a little bit about what the issue is.
Alex, really, it does sound like a magic trick, but it's actually just smart planning. The secret is using tax-efficient income strategies that wealthy have really been using for decades, and it's nothing new. I'll give you as much as I know and what we do. So you can understand as a retiree, dividend investing, then pulling out the dividends for income when in retirement to pay real estate taxes, to pay a car loan, whatever. The tax bracket could be from 0 to 15% to 20%. Look at Warren Buffett, Alex. I think he's worth billions. And yet his famous saying is, I pay less in taxes. I pay less in tax than my secretary. I scratched my head when I heard this years ago. Because we weren't doing this. So almost 30 years ago, we weren't focusing on it. I changed that 25 years ago. But how? Because he doesn't live off a salary. He lives off the investments. He pulls out the dividends. And the dividend rules as of right now is beautiful. And so I don't know if you think about this, but you think about the income coming in from the dividends taxed lower, which is a beautiful structure. Now, some of you think, well, what about municipal bonds? Well, okay, that's a different ballgame in Roth IRAs. Properly designed life insurance and even tax-managed portfolios really can generate income to reduce or eliminate taxes and make your money last a lot longer. I call it the retirement income jujitsu. You can use the tax code and the advantage, of course, using it. But again, I'd rather use the tax code rather than getting a full body slam from some fancy jiu-jitsu guy who's better than me. So I can tell you, Alex, think about Warren Buffett and what he's doing.
Yeah.
His secretary was getting, of course, income as her paycheck. He was getting dividends.
Well, and talk about those percentages, Scott, just to put it in people's minds for us, to really help explain how a billionaire can pay less taxes than his own secretary. Just speak to the percentage here and the differences with the taxes.
Well, imagine I'm pulling in $60,000 of dividends, and I'm getting Social Security. I could be paying less than 10% on that total income. Number two, if Social Security changes, which I don't know if it is or isn't, to be tax-free, it could be you could pull a lot more money out because dividends are taxed at a much lower rate. So let's say I'm pulling $100,000 out from my dividends. Well, that's wonderful. How much am I paying in tax? Maybe 4%, 5%. Let's say it's, according to the rules, 0 and 20%. So 20% on $100,000 of dividend. What a wonderful, wonderful tax bracket you could be in if this is you. So looking at it, looking at the tax bracket, looking at how it could work for you, this is the magic of working with someone. And I hope you're working with your advisor right now, and he or she is guiding you through this jungle of questions. Why? Because it's going to help you. Now, I've learned in the business because I wasn't taught that in my early stages of my career. And many advisors aren't looking at taxes. They'll do, Alex, what's called the put off. Call your tax guy and ask him what he thinks. Where I believe, when I wrote the book, The Three Blind Mice, in one of my chapters in the book, I talk about taxes, why the financial advisor should call your tax advisor or your tax CPA, and he or she, your tax person, your financial advisor, should call them and ask what's going on, what are we doing, and give some scenarios. So that relationship is now sealed. The three blind mice, now called the two blind mice, the financial advisor, tax guy, are working together for who? For you. Now, you might pay a couple bucks for that, but it could be totally worth it. So again, going back to basics, dividend investing, pulling out dividends. You're pulling out $50,000 a year. Social Security is $35,000. What is your tax bill? It could be, what, $3,000? Wonderful planning. But you've got to take time and get understanding what's going on. Don't just say, I don't know how that works. You need to understand just the basics, and the advisor should get together with your financial advisor as well as your tax, and they need to work together.
Yeah, as we have Scott today talking about some strategies to help you retire rich. If you have questions for Scott, the number is 609-488-4646. Again, 609-488-4646. And you know, we're using the Warren Buffett example about how he's paying less in taxes than his secretary, but we realize that people out there, most of us, are not billionaires, Scott. But you do not have to be a billionaire to learn from this strategy. What can the common person, somebody who's near retirement, in retirement, what's the takeaways here for folks?
Pay attention to the taxes. I think I said that several times on this segment and before. Whether you understand the tax rules or not, pay attention. If your advisor is not looking at the tax return, that's a huge mistake. Or let's say they don't understand taxes, but did they call your tax preparer, your CPA? That is mistake number one, because they're blinded to the mistakes. As I put in my book, the financial planning process leads your money to a mousetrap. And many of you listening right now may be in that mousetrap or totally unaware. Why? Well, I've been with my guy for 30 years. He's so wonderful. She's so great. I love them to death. Okay. Did they look at your taxable estate, your tax returns on a yearly basis? Did they look at the legacy planning on how do we pass this money on as most tax efficient as possible? Did they review the will, the power of attorney, or the trust agreements to make sure that everything is in order? Because there are many, many rich people, Alex. And I think about this, we spoke about in our prior segment, where we talk about this guy named Steve McNair, the NFL quarterback.
Right.
2009, no will. Estimated value of the estate, $20 million. Wife had to file in court to become an administrator. Didn't have it set up. Family disputes. How about Jimi Hendrix for us old people like me? No will. But you'd think these rich people, he had $80 million worth. And of course, it fell where? To legal battles over the estate. Marilyn Monroe, let's go back then. Yep. So there are many segments. People think they got it all in order. And these are rich people. Marilyn Monroe had no will, had no trust planning at all. And I think about the greatest guy, the singer, unbelievable, Michael Jackson, 2009, $500 million estate. Did they do tax planning? Did they do estate planning, which is what I call the three blind mice? They're not working together. And the IRS claimed $434 million. And the estate, I can tell you, if you're out there, don't put this off. This is why our firm looks at the legal documents, the estate, the will, the power of attorney, the living will, the trust agreements. We look at the tax returns, and we try to put a game plan together for those who want to work with us. They should be totally thrilled that we can look at all the areas and have the relationship with your CPA and your lawyer. I don't know if that answered your question, Alex, but there's a lot of mistakes going on out there, and I see it getting worse.
No, absolutely. And it really comes down to having that comprehensive plan, and that strategy looks at all angles. Taxes is a big angle to look at. And Scott, I want you to explain for folks that, for you to be able to help somebody, you really need to understand who they are before you can really strategize how to help them. Talk about your process. When folks meet with you and you're having those initial conversations, just talk about how, hey, this isn't a time to open up that checkbook. This is really a time to kind of open up your mind and talk about who you are. The
two types of people. Number one, are in retirement. There's before retirement, so they're still working. They need to put a game plan together. We want to find about that, their dreams, their goals, what they want to achieve. So the dreams is a big deal. Then we talk about the dollars. Maybe you're in retirement, heading into retirement. We want to know the dollars. Where are they? Taxable, non-taxable. What's the capital gains along with the tax return? We want to look at that. We want to disseminate it. We want to spend time. And by the way, this is no cost. When we meet people for the first time, we really want to find out what's going on and how can we make it more tax efficient? How can we bolster or benefit the portfolio when you pull out money? And Alex, when we do that, we then, of course, look at the estate plan, and we want to make sure that's buttoned up. So if they're going to pass money on to the legacy. So it's the dreams, the dollars, and passing it on, the legacy. How do they want that to look? Now, I hear everybody saying, well, Scott, I want my money to, my check to bounce to the caretaker. I get that. I should say it wrong word. The undertaker.
Yeah, right.
So we want the check to bounce. Okay, well, that's not very nice. You guy, put your body in the ground.
Come on.
But notwithstanding, we want to make sure that the family is not feuding. The tax man is not smiling. The courts are not having all of your assets on I call it the laundry, as your laundry, your clothing is hanging out, drying out in the laundry. That would be your assets. Can anybody see it? How do we hide those things for those people who don't want to share all that stuff with the common public? You see, we go to probate process. How do we avoid that? And this is what we do, looking at the full picture. Now, in the financial planning area, if they decide they want to work with us, great. It could be as simple as a quick phone call to see if it's a good fit. It could be an appointment. They meet with us, Alex. They bring in their tax return, their financial portfolio. They bring in their legal documents. We ask a lot of questions. We drill down to find out really what is your dream, desire, your legacy. How do you want to look and feel? Now, this could be on a yearly basis, too, because things change. Today, you feel great. Tomorrow, you can't get out of bed. We need to discuss this on a yearly basis for the clients that we serve because this is important. And I think if your financial advisor isn't doing that, maybe it's time that he or she was a great fit for growing your money. But the biggest problem in climbing a mountain, the Sherpa, is when you descend from the mountain, that's where the accidents happen. And I see that in the retirement planning. When you're descending, pulling money out, are they looking at all those areas? We'd like to be your Sherpa, and that might be a good fit. But again, no cost, no obligation. Let's just have a come to Jesus meeting. Let's have a discussion to see if we are the place for you. If not, we shake hands, but you're going to get some great ideas on maybe what to do and what to go back to your financial advisor and questions to ask him or her. That's what we like to do. A good name is way more desired than riches, I can tell you that.
And the number for Scott McLean, the McLean Advisory Group in Waretown, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. And next, Scott's going to show us how a retired couple making $85,000 per year can pay less than $4,000 in taxes. This is Financial Insanity.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money, but do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At McLean Advisory Group, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the McLean Advisory Group team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 609-488-4646. That's 609-488-4646. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. McLean Advisory Group, 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies are not associated entities.
Frankly, you could have your grandkids tweet out to your friends or go on the Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is and say, I got great information from Scott.
And you left out TikTok there as you're rambling off the different social media being used by the kids today. You got to remember that TikTok.
That's right. Tickety-tock.
This is Financial Insanity with Scott McLean, powered by McLean Advisory Group.
Today on Financial Insanity, we're discussing the secret to retiring rich. I'm Alex Dingman, host of Financial Insanity, here with Scott McLean, McLean Advisory Group. I want to remind folks, if you have questions, if something resonates with you, you want to learn more, that number for Scott and his team, 609-488-4646 to reach McLean Advisory Group right here in Waretown. 609-488-4646. All right. Scott, explain to us, we teased this before the break, but explain how a retired couple making $85,000 per year can pay less than $4,000 in taxes. And here's some other numbers here with this married couple we're talking about. They have $1.1 million in dividend-paying investments, receiving an average dividend of 4.5%. That's $50,000 per year in dividend income. They also have $35,000 in Social Security benefits. So how much in taxes do they owe, Scott? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Real quick, if I wasn't doing taxes or understanding, I'd be thinking maybe $10,000 to $15,000, right?
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds like a fair number.
The tax bill isn't that. It's just right around $3,700.
Well, that sounds pretty good, Scott. I mean, okay, again, they're making $85,000 a year, but then they're paying less in tax than someone that would be making about $50,000 at a job. How does this work out, Scott?
See, the job is you've got to pay all these certain taxes, whether what state you're living in. New Jersey would be state tax, federal tax, FICA, FUCA tax, and your tax up the tailpipe. But because the tax rules, you think about number one, Social Security. You see, Social Security was developed to be tax-free. Now, if Trump's bill goes through, it's going to be a total windfall profit for those of you listening who are taking Social Security. This is why you want to keep our phone number on your back pocket, because if it happens, there's some great strategies. I'll give it to you, 609-488-4646. So if the bill goes through on Social Security, making it all tax-free, call me directly, 609-488-4646. I'd love to share with you. So that's number one, Social Security. Now, Social Security currently has rules. It can be up to 85% could be taxable. Well, this family is bringing in, according to what Alex said, they're bringing in $35,000. Could that be 85%? And that's yes, depending what kind of money's coming from. But the answer is no. You see, dividends and income is taxed at zero based on their income tax. So because the tax rules is $17,500 for Social Security, we're thinking about that. Okay. And of course it goes up to $44,000 for 85%. A lot of numbers. I don't want to screw you up, but you guys don't lose me. I'll try not to lose you, especially if you just listened. How do you make your retirement as tax-free or as tax efficient as possible? Remember, qualified dividends and non-qualified dividends, two types. And qualified dividends are zero if you earn under $96,700 if you're married. And then you're getting a $32,300 deduction because you're married. You still like each other, or maybe you don't, but you're still together. Either way, that's $67,000 taxable income minus $32,300 taxable. That leaves $35,000 of taxable income. Final tax, well, we're looking at $2,320 at 10% or $1,400. And you think about at the next $12,000, because it's called marginal tax bracket, brings you up to around $3,760. Let me say it again. Marginal tax bracket for the first $23,200 is 10% or $2,320. Marginal tax bracket then goes to another level at 12%. So again, that's $1,400. I went over a lot of numbers, Alex. If you're out there and you're thinking, what the heck did he just say? Yeah, come back, repeat it. I'd love to repeat it at 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Let's have a discussion about you. It could be a quick 15-minute discussion. You can PDF or send me over your tax return. I can rip through it and say, here's some game plan. Now the next section would be, how do we make it happen for you? And that's a lot, Alex. And I went over a lot of numbers, and I surely apologize if I lost you. But one thing I won't lose you in, when we meet and we sit together and we crunch the numbers, you're going to say, wow, I'm so glad I met with Scott or George or our advisors at McLean Advisory Group, because that makes sense. How come I wasn't taught this? I get this all the time when people leave our office. They go to our front desk girl and she says, Scott, they asked so many questions. They couldn't believe how much information they got. Total free. Come visit with us. I can tell you the time we spend, whether it's on the phone or in person, will totally benefit you, because taxes are a thorn in the flesh, a pebble in your shoe that just doesn't seem to be going away, Alex.
Again, explain to folks, too, without getting too into it, but, if the couple had the same income from selling stocks instead of dividends, what would happen? Talk about a little bit of the difference here of selling stocks instead of, collecting the dividends.
Great question. So if they had to sell stocks for income instead of collecting dividends, I call it cannibalizing their asset. They're selling off stock shares at whatever price it is. If the price is high or low, if it's starting to go down, you're actually selling more shares of stock to get the same income. So we look at a couple things. Number one, capital gains. Is it long-term or short-term capital gains? Now, there's a huge difference, Alex, a tremendous difference. Long-term capital gains is your love affair with your money. It is the best in the world. Short-term capital gains is yucky. It's totally all taxable. Number two, market risk. When you look at the portfolio and you look at the dividends, what if the market drops 30% and you have to lose money? Up to 30% could be whacked on your portfolio. Did you sell shares of stock? You have to sell a lot more shares of stock. You're going to have a loss, and which happens to what? You're depleting your portfolio. Now, for us farmers out there, your chicken is the investment. The egg is the dividend. The dividend is coming out, let's say, on a quarterly basis. That is yummy. But when the stock price goes down, but they're still paying the same dividend, even though the chicken is getting skinnier, the dividend is coming out. So you're getting to eat the eggs. Or for some of you who don't need to eat the eggs, you're reinvesting. I'm trying to keep it simple because people don't understand long-term capital gains, short-term capital gains. They don't understand how it affects it. It does affect Social Security. So again, when we look at that, that's why investing in dividend is a game changer, or understanding it at least. Now, if you're investing in tech stocks, they could scream up, as we saw in up to February in 2025, and then the market took a major correction in the stocks. Hopefully they'll come back. But if you're banking on gains, if you're banking on growth can turn into shrinkage. Shrinkage could turn into, well, you're not enjoying the grandchildren. You're not enjoying the family. You're not going out to eat because you're watching the computer by osmosis. You're praying and hoping it goes back up, thus ruining your enjoyment. Paying attention to the stock market, looking at it every single day. Is that what you want in retirement? Maybe it is. But for many people I deal with, they just want to know that their money is in a great place, getting a nice check on a monthly basis. And there are some really, really wonderful places to put it if you want no risk at all, Alex. And that's what we have to put together, a tax-efficient game plan.
Well, yes, and you started this whole conversation off with the question of, do you like paying taxes? And we just we had a good time with that. Of course, no one really enjoys paying taxes. We all know we have to pay some, but what we're talking about here is your finances in retirement, and this stuff can be a real game changer, Scott, when it comes to having your money work more for you instead against you, and that's really what we're talking about here, with our finances, making sure that money doesn't run out, for a retirement that could last several decades.
It could. And paying unnecessary taxes, having your portfolio in too much risk. I've seen when the market goes up, everybody wants to jump in. When it goes down, they want to yell at the financial guy because, well, you put me in here. Well, you wanted to stay in there. So now it's a fight between the financial planner and or advisor and the client because the client wanted risk, but maybe the advisor is wise in the game by saying, are you sure you want that much risk? Beta. Do you know the beta of your portfolio? What's that? Too much risk. If you don't know your beta, you might want to give a studio a call, 609-488-4646, to understand the risk that you're facing, and maybe you could adjust that. A, so you don't run out of money. B, what if the market crashes? And C, are you paying too much in taxes? Those are the three areas. And then I guess D, what if the husband and wife, if you're married or a partnership, what if one of you die and the Social Security is off the table and the pension is cut? How does your retirement look then? These are questions we want to ask about your dreams, your dollars, and your dynasty as we look at your retirement so you can put your head on the pillow and not worry as much or not worry at all, knowing that your place, your money's tax efficient, your money's working hard for you, not keeping up with the stock market. The stock market is a scream, but it can also go drop down. But again, making sure as we have a steady income, the tortoise versus the hare, and then keeping your money well preserved in your retirement. And these are the areas we talk about because some people want to take risk, some don't. I don't know about you listening right now. I'd like to touch base with you. Perhaps maybe it's time to have a checkup from the wallet up. In other words, looking at it, as well as the neck up, saying, you know what, maybe I do have too much risk. Or maybe you want more risk. Or maybe you need a trust to make this money really efficient and a game plan to pass on your legacy. This is what we look at in The Three Blind Mice. If you would like to get a copy of our book, when you come visit with us, we'll give it to you for free. No cost, no obligation. Come visit with us. Give us our studios a call, 609-488-4646. Again, as we try to create a tax efficient, making your money work for you. And again, we talk about reducing taxes. Maybe a dividend game plan could be just for you.
What if you ordered a pizza, but when you opened the box, a couple pieces were missing? That would be upsetting, right? Now think about how much you believe you have saved for retirement. Do you still owe taxes on that money? If you do, that could take a big bite out of your nest egg. Financial advisor Scott McLean and his team at McLean Advisory Group understand the importance of tax planning and can help you reduce the impact that Uncle Sam has on your retirement. Give them a call today to start working on your retirement tax plan. 609-488-4646. Create a plan today so that you can get as many slices of your retirement pie as possible. Call Scott McLean at 609-488-4646 today and schedule your retirement tax analysis. That's 609-488-4646. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Tax Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities. Firm may not give tax advice.
Thank you so much for joining us today on Financial Insanity. We're having a great time as always. And in this segment, we wanted to get your questions. And so we're going to get some insights from Scott on some of your main retirement concerns and then something fun here at the end. Scott, you're going to have to be on your toes here. We're going to do a lightning round of think fast questions. So
I appreciate that, Alex. I'm excited to tell people because we've gotten so many phone calls, and thank you for allowing me to give them to you so you can curate them to what the most common questions were. So let's get this party started.
Let's do it, my man. All right. So our first question here, we hear this a lot, but what could the impact be on my pension if I decide to retire early?
Great one. Thank you, John, who wrote that. John, let me make it real clear to you. Reduced monthly benefits. Could you reduce your monthly benefits? Number two, are you banking on your spouse's income or your significant other's income? If you're not banking on your other significant income, great. What does that look like? But then you must also think about, John, what if you became disabled and you needed extra money? Could that or could that not affect you? This is a critical decision when we talk about Social Security, as well as the many pension options that you're available to take. And this is mistakes. I call this the pension trap. So if you have questions out there, anybody about to take the pensions, you definitely want to give our studios a call, because this is one of the most disastrous choices when they pick the pension option. What option is the best for you? It's not a simple ABC, let's go to D. That's not the right. So please don't put that off. Please feel free to give me a call. I don't mean to throw a plug out there. No cost, no obligation. Call me in my studio, 609-488-4646. And again, thank you, John, for your call, 609-488-4646. Anybody else has questions and want to go on the air, Alex, I'll give them to you. Go ahead, next one.
Love it. As we're going through some listener questions today, another question we had coming in: how might healthcare costs affect my retirement savings? That's a big one.
It is a big one. When you think about the rising cost of health insurance, I just had a meeting yesterday with someone, and he said they had a health care plan, HSA. What a great way to hide and defer income for retirement, or for you and or your spouse. If you're married, if you're single, it's a different game plan. But are you using your HSA? Question is it an HSA, use it or lose it? Nah, unless you have health expenses for you or your spouse. The second question is going to be, if it's for both of you, can you not lose it? Can you carry it with you when you retire? Why? Because the rising of healthcare, the unplanned medical expenses, or for those of you who have teeth that need new teeth, that could be one heck of an expense for a medical that's unseen. Then you have long-term care costs going into retirement, and perhaps add in inflation. This could be a spanking. So again, if I were to warn you out there, Charlie, you wrote this, you and Susan wrote this, you kind of did it together. Thank you. This is a very important question when it comes to healthcare benefits and how it really can affect your retirement savings, because God forbid you get a major health illness and maybe your lights start to twinkle or go dim, and you have to have someone else care for each one, your loved ones, and if the kids aren't going to help out, it is a really, really expensive chore.
Scott, you hit on inflation. As we're going over listener questions today, if you have a question for Scott and his team, McLean Advisory Group, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. But how does someone calculate for inflation when trying to figure out if they've saved enough? I know, right?
What kind of question is that? I mean, I see, and I look at this, Janie, when you sent that question into us, like, that's a really loaded question, because when you're trying to plan for inflation, we've just seen the rapid inflation from 2021-22, the rising of interest rates, the screaming of interest rate. We see bank failures happening because they had to buy government bonds to protect their money, and they have a bank situation. Man, that was a whole poop show of challenges. So I guess slow and steady wins the race, but we do need, so in inflationary times, usually stock does better. But sometimes we've just faced this, the market has been really volatile. If you think about 2022, it has been tremendous. If you had bonds and bond or like instruments or income type instruments, you probably lost around 15 to 20%. But if you didn't get scared and your underwear didn't get dirty and you held on, you finally are starting to come back. So be very cautious on how you invest the money and understanding the process of what investments to go into, because there are inflationary investments that we can keep up. We saw the Treasury. We had some of you out there let me know when you bought that 9% inflationary bond. That was wonderful for a little bit of money based on your portfolio. Again, you need to adapt to the situations. And again, what is your risk tolerance? Should it be higher now with the rapid inflation? Because we have to keep up with the money. And then, of course, your lifestyle has to change for some of you, because you frankly can't go out to dinner maybe twice a week. Maybe it's twice a month because of inflation. You're buying this food. So again, that's a really good question. It's a really hard question. If somebody thinks they have a hedge on it, good for you. You can buy tools. I call equipment, but you can buy tools. But will it keep with the rapid inflation we have seen in this short period? I'm now 65, Alex. I've seen it in the 80s when it went skyrocketing, but it didn't do it. This skyrocket trip was faster than it was in the 80s.
609-488-4646. The number for Scott, 609-488-4646. Another question we got in here before we go to the rapid fire segment here. We're going to learn a little bit more about you, Scott. But first, a question, another one from a listener here. is when might be the right time to start planning for retirement?
Well, that is a $1 million question, and that should be the moment you start work.
Yep.
You see, if you're brand new, right out of the high school, maybe you're joining these armed services, congratulations, and you get a nice stipend, put away a minimum of 10%. That's gross. So if your income a month is $3,000, put away $300. If your income a month is $500, put away $50. It doesn't matter the numbers if you're real young. Now, if you're older and you've got to play catch up, and I had a nice meeting with a lovely couple the other day, and they said, you know what, we treated our kids, we spent a lot of money, we did a lot of fun sport things with our child and our children, and he said, Scott, we didn't really plan. And now they're starting to sock money away. I said, maximize your 401k. So for each individual person, this is very important. By putting your head in the sand, like those ostriches, your vitals are exposed to the elements of inflation, stock market reduction, or stock market going tremendously well. You have a lot of left hooks, so you've got to take your head out of the sand and say, when do I plan? Now, when do I like to meet with people? If they're older, my age group, when I work with people, 55 and older, I'd like to meet with people at least 1 to 2 years ahead of time, worst case, 6 months. Now, for those of you that are just retired now, and you say, well, Scott doesn't want to meet with us. No, I'd love to meet with you. Frankly, this is, again, we're going to try to play catch up. We have to really maneuver things differently. But again, it's not a rushed plan. I see so many people going to financial planners, and they get this fancy 30, 40-page printout. That's good for one day. Next day, life changes. This is really important to understand what you need now, what you and your spouse, if you're married, or just you individually, how much do you need? How much does Social Security be? How much do I need to really live on? And then think backwards. What about the trips I want to take? So again, this planning is not a show up at a Pfizer's office and he does it for you or she does it for you. No, this is think through the process of all the variables, as we spoke about just early in this segment, the healthcare, inflation, Social Security, when do your pension options, they all tie together. In addition, don't forget taxes, because taxes could evaporate a great amount of earnings if taken from the wrong investment.
Great stuff today, and we really appreciate everyone who sent in questions. If you have a question for Scott and his team, McLean Advisor Group, the number is 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. All right, Scott, we're going to pivot here. We got 2 minutes.
You didn't plan anything? I got nothing planned.
I know. I know. I'm putting you on. You got to be on your toes here, Scott. All right.
Got it.
Which I know you can do, my friend. And so you got 2 minutes, and I'm going to just send you some questions. These are all easy questions because they're about you. Okay, you know you, but I don't want you dwelling on any of these answers because I want to try to get through as many as I can here in 2 minutes.
Got it.
All right. Go. Let's do it. 2 minutes on the clock. First question for you, Scott McLean. What's on your bucket list?
Growing my business. I want more locations. I love this business.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Making mistakes and getting so mad at myself. I got to correct them. I hate making mistakes.
When you make that mistake, what's your favorite comfort food? Make you feel better.
I had it last night. Don't tell my wife. Twinkies.
I love it. Favorite athlete of all time?
It's Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Watching what he came from and where he was nobody when he was in high school. Nobody wanted him, and he pulled himself up by the bootstraps.
Yep.
Michael Jordan.
Love that answer right there. Favorite book?
I love the Bible, but on top of the Bible, I would tell anybody to get evidence that demands a verdict. I needed to know what I believe and why I believe, and that was almost like a Harvard graduate, the law book. Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell.
Very cool. We're halfway through it. Go to icebreaker story. Is there any sort of icebreaker story? You don't know somebody. Is there something you like to tell about yourself or something that happened? Any icebreaker story for you?
Yes, when I got hit by a car and the car left.
That's a good one. Because I would have questions. I'd have questions.
8 years old, and it was a life-changing alteration.
I bet. What about your morning routine? What's that look like?
Because I drive from the farm to the office, it's about a 45-minute drive, so I shower, get ready, and I have a quiet time by myself, me and my maker. We think about the day and what I need help on and just guidance.
I love it. All right, 2 more real quick. Holiday you look forward to the most?
Easter.
Oh,
Beautiful
very cool.
day.
I love it. And earliest financial lesson that you can remember?
When I was building a huge business and the government took it away, President Biden was involved in that. The biggest lesson was what you think is stable now may not be stable later. How do you plan?
I love it. What a great message. Scott McLean right there in a nutshell in 2 minutes. I appreciate you, my friend. That is great. And I appreciate all of our listeners. Again, if you have a question for Scott and his team, that number, 609-488-4646, 609-488-4646. Scott, as always, good talking to you, my friend.
Thank you, Alex. You're wonderful.
And thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of your week.
This radio program may contain information which has gone regulatory or other significant changes since its original recording. The information and views expressed on today's show is educational in nature and is not intended to be a recommendation for any specific investment, product, strategy, plan, tax, or legal advice. Information presented is believed to be factual and up to date, but we do not guarantee its accuracy. Investment advisory services offered through Sound Income Strategies, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisory firm. McLean Advisory Group and Sound Income Strategies, LLC, are not associated entities.
This radio show is a paid placement.